All right, let me log in real quick. Restream. Which probably means I'm going to need to do this real quick. Hold on. I'm glad it's secure, but still. Seems like it does this more than it should. Alright, there we go. Okay. Okay, what else do I need to do? I also need to do this. I need to reset my settings. So apparently, I did this already for Substance Painter, but it looks like I need to do it again. So let's go through this process here. Open the start and then run, and then we're gonna do reg edit and then hit OK. Yep. And then in here, let's see, navigate to the graphics driver register key. We're already there. We're in the main area here. And then we need to add, okay, yeah, completely destroy the ones we had on there. Okay, well, let's do this again. TR delay doesn't really exist. Right click in here, new dword 32-bit value, name it TDR delay. Oops. And then double click it, change the base setting to decimal. And then the value data is not defaulted to, but we'll do 60. And then we got one more to do. New 32-bit value named TDRD-DIDELAY. Double click it. Decimal 60. Is that right? Okay. I'm supposed to restart the computer, which I will, but I think we'll be okay just for this short stream. Okay, I think we're good. And let me open up my stream here. Okay, how's everybody doing? Thanks for showing up. Background looks okay now. Ken asks, hey, it's a quick question. When I insert a smart material in Substance, it doesn't cover up completely. It breaks when UV's cut. Do you have any solution on that? Change the tiling to triplanar. Let's see, don't show me. Let's continue anyways. So on every material that you make, what's an easy one? Pistol, handgun. So for instance, if we go over here to materials, and we put on, it doesn't really matter, this American wood, this will be obvious. You're going to see you have projection as UV projection. You can switch it to triplanar projection. Do that. Okay, so X-Wing Bake C downloads. I also need to check something else out while I'm here. I might have to leave a little bit early again today. I got Houdini installed, and there's some stuff I want to try before I have to go to work. Let's see, downloads. There it is. Let me just 7-zip extract here. What's going on in here? And let's hit the comma key. Okay, so there is problems with, here's the low res, here's the high res, and yeah, so one thing I can see right off the bat with this low or this high res is these panels are cut straight in, which may not lead for a great normal bake. Usually when you want to bake a normal map, let me do this real quick. Oops. Oh, hold on. Wake 'em or whack 'em. Proportion. Thank you. When you're doing panel detail or any kind of normal detail, if you have, for instance, a cube 3D, go into edit mode, make polymesh 3D, initialize, cube, deformation, unify. So we got a cube here, and I want to bake a normal map on this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Inset, Polygroup Island, and let me go ahead and get rid of this border. There we go. Inset, Polygroup Island, Inset Region. We're going to inset this region here, and then we're going to go to QMesh, Polygroup Island, and we're going to push this back. And then, you know what, for the low res, all we would have to do is take the subtool, duplicate it off, go back to this one, and we'll just go back here. So let's say this is our low res, and this is our high res, right? And for our high res, we could even bevel these edges if we want to. We can go to drop our crease tolerance down, turn on dynamic, or we could even do Q grid in this particular instance, although those corners might give me problems. Let's see. That's not too bad. Okay, let's say this is our high res, and this is our low res. The problem with this is on our, well, there's going to be a couple problems. When we average these vertices, you're probably going to get a little bit of skewing on this side. There's ways to fix that. Instalot has a built-in cage fix. Marmoset has a fix where you can paint it out. But that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you go to the side here on your high res, see how it goes straight back? Even if you were to break these UV shells along these borders here, and it does, you know, you harden those edges and it projects straight back, you're going to get a pretty terrible bake right here, because all it's going to show you is a little thin sliver of this. So generally what you want to do when you're baking normal detail is, instead of pushing straight back, what you're going to want to do is, let's delete this. Forgot we got rid of our undo history. So I'm going to duplicate this one also. We got a low res, and then for this one we're going to do our Q mesh, not our Q mesh. We're going to go to Inset Polygroup Island here, and then we're going to inset just a little bit more, and then we're going to take Q mesh Polygroup Island, hold down Shift, and push this back. And now when I bake a normal off of this one, and again we can just turn on dynamic with our Q grid up and our coverage or whatever we want to do for our high res here. So now when we bake this normal map, see how much more information we get? It kind of goes in more, and there's a little more for that normal map to grab. So when I go back here to the source art, all of these panels are pushed just straight back, and that's it. So number one, these panels are too thin. Depending on your resolution, you're going to have crazy high resolution for these panels even to show up. Problem number one. Problem number two, they're going straight back. So you're not giving that normal map enough tooth to grab onto. But we'll go ahead and give it a shot and we'll see what kind of results we get out of Painter. What's your opinion on Instalot so far? So far, so good. I'm doing Instalot. I've got, okay, let's do this. Let's go to File. I'm not going to do it this morning, but I've got a file set up. So we're going to be doing this, and I've also got a lot of Houdini stuff going on. There's Houdini 16.5 just released, so I'm going to be doing some videos on that. Hopefully, I was trying to do it yesterday. I had some licensing issues. But now we've got this guy too, so I'll probably do an Instalot pass on this thing. And this is the guy's like 11 draw calls here. And we're going to drop him down. I'd like to get him rigged real quick because there's some interesting stuff you can do with rigging and auto culling, pruning of joints, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I might just do the easy version because, again, trying to get a lot of stuff done this week. Anyway. Unreal today, maybe. I use Unreal a lot at work, but I have zero set up at home. What I need to do is set up my home Unreal a little bit more like my work Unreal. And I use a lot of proprietary stuff, and I don't know. It'll be interesting. I want to get into Unreal at home offline first, just to make sure I don't make an idiot out of myself. Cool. Yeah, thanks for the kind words. Thanks for everybody for showing up. Is it possible to put multiple meshes with different UV sets to substance? Yeah, that should be just default. For instance, if you go to the, did I not save that one? I should have saved it. Oh, I'm sure I've got different examples of that. Let me see if I go to, oh man. Yeah, so basically what you would do, and you know, I got it set up in Maya already. So if I was to export this low res into Painter, and if we go over here to Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade, and see how I have all of these materials right here? When I bring this low res into Painter, every single one of these materials would be a new texture set. So it would be an object in Painter that you could go over here and you could turn them on and off, and then they would have different UV sets and different texture sets. As far as like, can you do that with one object with multiple texture sets and then put in another object with multiple texture sets? No, not that I know of. Hey, everybody. The rigging process would be the easiest process I could find online. It won't be anything. I'm not much of I haven't rigged since college, so you better believe I'm going to be looking for, hey, free, easy to do rig. Because I'm not about to sit here, auto rig, and try and figure out how to rig again after 12 years, because I got better things to do. And that's part of the problem of working in this industry and specializing, is that, yeah, I could probably figure out rigging again, but why bother? I have professionals do that for me. But then when I go home and I'm like, I wish I had a rigged model, I gotta go, well, I'm not gonna do that. But now that we're in Painter, let's go ahead and see what kind of results that gives us here. So we'll go to File, New, and we're gonna go to Select. Here, this is our desktop. We'll grab our low res. Everything else looks fine. We may need to crank that up to 2048, but we can just do that in the when we go to Texture Bake. And if we go over here to our 2D only, we've got our UVs laid out. So we'll go to 3D only, and then we'll go over here to Texture Settings. And we're going to go ahead into Bake Textures, and we'll go ahead and bake all that. And we'll go ahead and make that 4096, and we'll grab our high. Everything else looks fine. This only has one texture set, but if you did have multiple texture sets, you could go down here on your normal map and say bake by mesh name, and then go down here to your ambient occlusion, and you could say only say mesh name. Now that I say that, let me go to my usual suspects here. Stream. If you go to my YouTube channel here, and you go to Intro to ZBrush Part 2, and you scroll down until you get to this. No, not Intro to ZBrush Part 2, sorry. I always see that reptile face and it confuses me. What I'm really looking for is the Reptile Creature Series right down here. And then if you go down, you're going to see there is multi-baking in Painter from ZBrush. So if you mute that, you're going to see we bring multiple pieces into Painter with different materials. And, actually, you know what? Did we? Because that's only showing one texture set up there. I'm trying to think. I mean, I know I've done it recent. Oh, you know what? Of course I've done it recently. We can use the handgun. No, because that's all one material. Yeah, it's all one material, but different objects. But if you have different object names over here, but not different materials, what you can do is say only baked by same mesh name. But I thought I had multiple texture sets on that one. I'm going crazy. Anyway, we'll go ahead and bake Lambert 2 textures here. And this Lambert 2, what you can do is you can control that name if you wanted to. Let's throw that in here. So if we go to File, New, File, Import from our desktop. Okay, so we've got this one here, and we go again to Windows, rendering guide. I should probably make a button for that. Or there's a button right there, isn't there? Hypershade window. Click this button instead. I just so used to going to that stupid window. So under here you're going to see this is the Lambert 2 name. If you control double click that, you can rename this to whatever material name you want, and then that would come in as the name. I think in Painter 2 you can also just rename this as well. Edit name. Yeah, so you can rename this as whatever. Okay, so now we got this baked, and we baked it as a 4096, and it actually baked better than I thought it would. But yeah, if you did drop this down to, as you get lower and lower, you are going to start losing resolution here. So, which isn't a huge deal because, you know, you can keep some of that through your occlusion and stuff. But yeah, if you cranked it up to 4096, you should get plenty of texture res on there. And then speaking again to the, I mean, this one won't be too bad because they actually did a good job laying the UVs out. So you wouldn't have a problem with seams, because when you're UVing, if you just UV along these seams, you shouldn't have too much problems with seams because they're kind of hidden. But then you use the triplanar, so we put some fabric on here. And so this UV projection in this case works fine, but in a pinch, you do triplanar projection. UV projection I would only really use if I have my stuff set up in a way that I want to use the direction of the UVs to control the direction of the material, which sometimes I do, for sure. As far as this area up here, it looks like it got a little bit borked. I guess I'd have to see the high and the low there, which we do have in ZBrush. Well, I mean, that's kind of okay. It's not borked. It's just what the high res looks like. I thought it was a baking error. So, although there might be some, yeah, there's some pretty chewed up geometry over here. So this would have to be cleaned up in order to get that to bake right. So both the high res and the low res are a little bit chewed up. But there you go. Okay. John asks, cool, thanks. If you do get to Unreal, or you can, I was wondering if you could run through a map export for Unreal. Oh, that's going way beyond my expertise at the moment. Most of my role involving Unreal is taking static meshes or skeletal meshes into game, texturing, modeling, map stuff. Ooh, you'd be really taxing me. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Yeah, that's the expert substance. What are some good UV techniques, tricks, and practices for characters? I'm really getting in the mode of, for topology and UVs, not really caring about that too much anymore. I'm at that stage in my career. But I do, now that you mention that, if you go to my YouTube channel, let me see if I have that for free. Because the only time I really ever talk about it is in my production stuff, the intro or the reptile creature high res, where I actually try and care about the UVs a little bit. Yeah, that creature series. I mean, it's on Gumroad, but I don't know. Maybe in the future I'll go over. I mean, I can. You know what? Now that I say that, let's go into here. Let's reopen that commander because I did actually do those UVs. Oh, if you want to see those, okay. There's a couple. Okay, there's a couple things we can do, or a couple things we can look at. This one might be a little bit much to look at. I think his UVs are probably going to be overlapping. So let's go to Windows, UV editor here. Yeah, okay. Let's do Hypershade. Let's see if I can't just, and let me go to custom here. And so, okay, there is some stuff in here. We can also talk a little bit about, okay, not a whole lot of window room here, but let's say I want to move these accessories over, or I want to move this body over. So here's body SG1. I'm going to select objects with material. And now you can see these UVs. If I control right click 2 UVs, I can then move this over. And I think now with the new transform stuff, I can move this in one. to the left. There we go. Or you know what? Let's go 1 to the right. Move 1 quadrant to the right so we can see this. So here's some UVs I did when I actually cared about it. All right, let's go through here. Yeah, because these are all going to be overlapping. Although if we bring in the FBX for the, well, we can talk about him since we got him in here right now. So for instance, here's his UVs laid out. And if we go back to this panel here, you're going to see where those UV cuts happen. And if I double click, just click these faces and hit Control-1, that'll go ahead and I'll put that here. So what I tried to do is I knew he was going to have a cloak over here. So I put this cut right along here to kind of hide it. And then, you know, down the sides, and this is where when you get into auto UVing, UVing by ambient occlusion is sometimes useful because your ambient occlusion will collect in these shadow areas, and generally where shadows collect, you're not really going to see that in the camera too much, so you can kind of do that. Then it goes down the bottom of the arm here, then around the hand, and then of course you're going to want to cut the mouth out, and then anything that's going to stretch a lot, like if you have, you know, when you try to unfold this, and it unfolds to the side here, and you have this all as one mesh, you could get some really, it could really compress those polygons and have a really hard time getting these things to resolve. So you can cut areas like this ear out, and probably what I should have done is gone through here and cut a little bit more on that ear to open it up in the middle, because you're not going to really see inside of this ear either. So I could probably do a couple of cuts in here to, again, just let it relax a little bit more. And obviously the eyeballs and the nostrils, little areas like that. But let me bring in a better example here. Let me see if I have file, new scene, don't save, file, import. What am I thinking of here? We need to go to, let me drop this down here in case I go some weird places, or places where I have work that I don't want you to see just yet. Nothing too weird. I'm looking for, well, you know what, we did download it, and we can, even if I didn't, let me do view details. So what I'm looking for is the GDC female. There she is. Okay, so I'm just going to throw this on my desktop. 7-zip. Extract here. So there's a couple things that you can go and check out yourself if you'd like. So we can go to share.allegorithmic.com, and we can go to, I don't know the name, but we'll call it Pavlovich Quixel Helmet. And go to D2 samples here. This web page has been a little bit borked. It looks a little bit weird, and when you go to click this download link, it might take you somewhere weird, but if you just right click this one and do save link as, we can just download this into our desktop here. So, and then also in Substance Share, go to Meshes. And then if you click on this GDC FPS female, you can download this mesh as well. And that's all we're really going to be looking at. So while that's downloading, we can look at a couple different ones of these. And if we go in here to the GDC female, there's going to be a GDC female OBJ. I'm just going to drag that into Maya here. Where's that? What are you trying to tell me, Maya? Oh, I have that open. Okay. So we drag this in, and now she's all one mesh too, but what we can do is I can drag these in one by one. But you can see kind of where she's cut up here. And if we go in here, let's just do a search inside this folder for star.obj. There we go. So we got all these ones we can grab, and we can just throw these in here as separate meshes. Sure, whatever. Okay, so now they're all separate. So now when I open up our trusty UV texture editor, and you know, these are hand packed, which Houdini has a crazy, crazy good packing algorithm now. It's really scary good. So that'll be exciting too. And also, it can also do the, remember I was talking about taking the commander and doing the material combining and then LODing. Houdini can do that as well. We'll go over that in videos this week, I hope. And also the packing algorithm is sick. So anyway, we got these pieces here. So if we just isolate this one, hit Control-1 and then hit F to frame. You can go through here and you can see where I tried to put these seams. And actually, this isn't a super good example either, because this is where I was baking this all average, so I was really kind of sloppy on where the cuts are. But generally speaking, where you want to put these cuts is where, number one, where hard edges are. You can put them right along that hard edge and then separate those shells out and then harden those edges so that you get a cleaner bake, which I was very lazy on this one. But then the other place you want to put it is just along natural seam lines. So if I go through here, and you know what, just for fun, we have this material. So I'm going to go over here to the Blend SG1 and we're going to go to Bump Mapping, File. I'm going to change that to Tangent Space Normals, and we're just going to grab from the desktop here. I know it's not on the screen, but just go to the helmet area and grab the normal. There we go. And of course that looks completely inverted. Let's see if I can't go to what am I looking for here? It's been a while since I've had to troubleshoot this stuff in Maya. So okay, we're in our Hypershade here. I'm going to go right click. Oh, I should have named these better. So on this one in particular, I have Blend SG1, but if you go back one, I thought I would have named it. And the other file, I do have these named correctly for an OBJ. But that's SG, what is it? Blend 1, okay. And then I'm going to right click, graph this one. And we got the head normal here, UV coordinates, let me see, normal camera, Y. Needs to be flipped, or I could possibly change it to left-handed maybe. Let me go to the shape node here, tangent space, no, yeah, I would need to flip the Y channel. Anyways, blah, blah, blah. So basically, where you see these cut lines is where there are natural seams in the object. That's an obvious one. And then you're also going to want to cut it along hard surface normal changes where you can, like here, and that'll go ahead, and probably even in here would be a better choice. Yeah, so I don't, you know what, the Commander's still a better one, because that one I actually did care a little bit more. And you should always care. But at the same time, I prefer to just have robots care for me, because this is really tedious shit. So in here you can see, this one's much better set up. So you're going to see where I have cut lines along these hard surfaces is everywhere there's a hard surface angle change. Those are all cut up, and that allows you to give, when you UV those things, to give it a little breathing room around the shells. And also when you go to bake this thing, you're going to harden those edges, those open edges, and then you're going to have every other edge average, because you're already paying the cost of two separate points. So when you have one vertex point, let's see if I can explain this better. Windows. So one more time, I'll take this one here. It's already over here. So in the Hypershade, we'll go to, what is that, arm base, block, arm front, select objects with material, and then control right click 2 UVs, and we're just going to move this one over to the right. And so what I'm talking about is, and you know what, we can also do 2 faces, control 1, there we go. So now we're just looking at this. So this piece here, and if you go to any of these edges here, and I just double click this edge, you're going to see this back piece here was all UV'd out by itself. So this is all one UV shape right here. And you can see how this UV right here, see how it's one vertex, but over here you've got, see if I can find it, there's 2 UVs. There's a UV here and a UV here. So you're paying the cost of 2 UV locations for one vertice on that point anyways, so you don't need to average vertices. When you average your vertices, what that's doing is just giving you one vertex normal value per vertex, so it's a lot cheaper. However, you're already paying the cost of this not being cheap because you have 2 UV positions per vertex. So on that, in that case, you could go ahead and harden those and basically that's giving it 2 vertex normal locations. So you're already paying the cost anyway, so you might as well use it to your advantage to get cleaner bakes. So that's where this kind of stuff comes in. There are other things you can do with the baker and cages that you can just use average vertices. That's the more you can average your vertices, the cheaper it is, bottom line. But this is kind of, you know, old school method of just breaking up your shells, giving it some breathing room around here so you can get clean bakes along here with those hardened edges. And then that should give you, do I have directional light here? Yeah, let's just rotate this around so you can get nice clean bakes along there is basically the moral of this story. Anyway, don't know if that helps any, but Mike, do you have any tips for likeness sculpting? Yes, hire somebody to do that for you because it's really boring. You basically load up 1,000 reference images of all different, and ideally, if you use scan data, so they give you perfect reference images of that person, and then you get the cloud point data, and you convert that to geometry, and then you go into ZBrush and you take your, or you go into any program really, and you can use RapX if you want to. We can do a RapX thing. Do I have RapX on this computer? I do not. Damn. Okay, so I need to install RapX. So you can use programs like that where you can put your base mesh that you like to use with your perfect UVs and just wrap deform it to any scan data, and then you're done. Otherwise, what you have to do is take that base mesh into, let's say, ZBrush, and then load up into Spotlight or Reference Viewer all these different views of the head, and then you meticulously go through, and you have to match the camera angles too. So like if you have the focal length data of whoever was taking pictures, which on Google Images probably you won't have, but there might be some EXIF data in there that you can extract from, and you will match those camera views, and then one by one you will go through and just meticulously move that face into the shape of the person you want to sculpt. And then once you get that done, you can eyeball it, but in my experience using, you know, just matching reference has actually been a little bit faster, just at least to get your primary and secondary forms in. And then for the tertiary or the super high detail stuff, again, you just pull up a bunch of reference that you can find, and then you go through and you just spray pores and make wrinkles that match that person. And it's, to me, it's really it's more of an exercise in observation and craftsmanship than it is like fun. It's more work to me than it is like, oh man, I'm having a blast studying Robert De Niro, or you know, whoever you're trying to make, all of his nose hairs and nose pores and ear hair, and ugh. I mean, it's fine. It's again, it's a good exercise. It's a great exercise in your observational skills. And if you want to freehand, like, you can also just have your reference out to the side and just sculpt it and just eyeball it, and you can do that too. It doesn't have to be a scientific endeavor, but the more scientific you are, I think the better results you probably get. And it's also a good practice. But for me to do for fun would just be like, no thanks. Cool. Awesome. Does Maya pack UVs any good? Yeah, it does actually. It's not terrible. Let's do that. Let's see. Let's go to window. Well, let's see if I can do this without, you know, we probably are going to bork our model. So one thing that's tough to do in Maya sometimes is if I want to say, take this arm accessory. So we're going to select this one here, and we're going to go to faces here. And we've got those selected. So let's see if we can go to like a mesh. We can do a separate, but if I want to try and do just an extraction of just those meshes here. So edit mesh. Let me see. Do I have my hotkey set up? Ah, man, I am not prepared to be in Maya today. Edit mesh, extract. And then we'll just go ahead and type history, freeze transformations. Yeah, it just did a separate, didn't it? All right, let's do. Yeah, okay, but it still kept them. Oh, that's good enough. So we'll take this. I mean, that's not what I really wanted. I don't think. Maybe it is. Let's see. Let's go to, what did I say, arm accessories? Okay, so there's the arm accessory pieces. And, oh, you know what? It did kind of give me what I wanted. So we have this here. So if I want to, you know, I can UV lay these out, but if I also want to combine these back, let's go to Mesh, Edit Mesh, Combine. Mesh Tools, Combine. Man, do I have this stuff in here? There it is, Combine. Shift right click to get those context sensitive menus. That's a lot easier. And then, okay, so now we've got this all combined. Oh, and I kept everything. How nice of Maya. Sometimes it has a really hard time doing that. Maybe 2018 they fix that. So anyway, we've got this thing here, and then we're going to go to the Windows Modeling Editor, UV Editor. And we've got this here. And if you go over here to, see if I remember, Arrange and Layout, then you can hit this Layout button. Let's look at those settings first. So we're going to go to Modify Layout with this little open option box here. And one thing you're going to want to do, shell pre-scaling, you want to preserve 3D ratios so that everything is the right size in your viewport. Although if you've gone through here and you've manually like made things bigger or smaller based on camera view, you may want to skip that part. And then you can do, we can translate the shells. We're allowing it to translate. You can also tell it you're allowed to rotate the shells, but also only rotate in 90-degree increments, which is sometimes useful. It might take it a little bit longer to do. Yeah, it even says down here, a small step value will significantly increase your packing time, which means if you say you can move every single one of these shells 5 degrees if you want to, it'll go through and be like, well, if you're giving me that kind of leverage, I haven't going to have to go through and do a bunch of cycles with 5 degrees on every single one of these pieces and see if I can't pack it a little bit nicer. And then, you know what, actually, what I probably use for packing for this one is Hedis. If that's what it looks like to me. But Maya's isn't bad either. So you can go through here. And again, this commander was done quite a while ago. So texture map size, so let's say we're bagging to a 2048, we'll put some shell padding of 4 around here, and then we'll just hit apply. And then we'll go through there and pack our UV shells. There's also iterations on here you can do. There we go. That's a pretty nice pack, right? And if you go through here, yeah, I mean, that's not a whole lot of pixel space in here, but if you're not LODing out to really small stuff, and even then, with the bleed, you should be able to go down 1-2 steps without seeing any mipping. So let's see, yeah, so it's not bad. It's my pack UVs. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Do you find John asked, do you find ZBrush's normal map baking inferior to all other programs? I get very odd smoothing results sometimes. I stick to my XMR substance. Well, ZBrush's normal baking, speaking of smoothing results, is you can't necessarily set hard and soft edges. It's usually just all hard or all averaged. So if you do need to like split these things up like through here and you wanted to harden those edges and get a bake, you're just gonna have to average them all in ZBrush, I think. I hope I'm not lying to you. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure, almost 99.9% positive, that all you can do is average the vertices and bake your normals. So that's not a whole lot of control, but for most, like especially for organic stuff, that's fine. Like the body is completely averaged. This stuff, not so much. Can you do a little demo on light caps, please? I want to stay in ZBrush as much as I want. I will do you one better than a little demo. I will give you an entire series if you go to my YouTube channel. Or, you know, I should also mention, if you want to download this stuff, Gumroad, QBrush. So, the 3 suspects here, YouTube, Gumroad, QBrush, and then you can download these things here, and then all you're looking for in this case, oh, you know what, I say that and then I don't actually have, I didn't want to put the ZBrush Guides on my personal channel because this is actually using zbrushguides.com. If you go to www.zbrushguides.com, you can go through here and you can download this really cool. It's by Pablo Munoz Gomez. There we go, zbrushguides.com right here. Go to here, and I'll just link you guys to this. Bam. And there's a free tutorial in here. Ebooks. Wait for it. And there's a guide to ZBrush comic style renderer. and you can get it now, and it's free. And basically this is the ebook, and then what I did was I did a video companion series to that. So we go through here and we go through the matte cap breakdown, what a matte cap is, modeling for stylized rendering, light cap here. So if you go to light cap, we talk a lot about how light cap works, and it's basically light cap is using lights to make your own, basically your own matte caps. And that just built-in baked lighting here. And then also you can use light caps as HDR images. In fact, let's see if we have that on YouTube. Anyway, there's a whole series on just that kind of stuff, and then light caps in particular. And then also if you go to my Intro to ZBrush Part 3 series, do I have light caps? You know what? I don't, but I can still show you. Sneak preview. This you'll have to get on Gumroad. But if I go to recording, ZBrush Intro Part 3, we can scroll down. So in the Part 3 on Gumroad and QBrush, you will have a whole section on light cap. So on here, we go through light cap and just setting up again, and it's pretty simple. I can just do the simple stuff here. You can also, and you can do crazy cool lighting effects like that. There's also image-based lighting in ZBrush, which if you go through here, I think that also bakes HDR images into your light cap. So you can bring in an HDR high dynamic range image and do IBL, image-based lighting, and that will bake your texture to a light cap, and that'll go ahead and bake in those lights into your light cap here. So that's kind of a cool thing you can do. So that way you can do image-based lighting in ZBrush through light caps. That process I'm a little rusty on. It's one of those things I do for demonstration, and I'm like, hey, here we go, we're gonna do it, and then I don't do it again for years, and then I forget how to do it, so I gotta go back and watch my own videos. Dynamesh asks, how do you split your model for texturing? Just basically everything we've talked about up to this point, which is splitting along the hard edges or hiding your seams and something that doesn't really have hard edges, like a body. You just hide them under the arms, in the middle of the fingers, up the sides, in the mouth bag or eyeballs and nostrils. Hide your seams as well as you can. We started about 45 minutes ago. So yeah, basically, and I don't really have an agenda today. Sometimes I'll come in with an agenda and just have to get work done. But today's one of those days where I gotta actually leave a little bit early, but I'm just going through some old requests I had and just answer some questions here. WrapX equals Geomagic Wrap? Maybe. If you go, let's see. It's WrapX and Wrap 3. Let's see if I can find it. I guess I can go ahead and wait for it. It's this thing right here. So Wrap 3, it's got a node-based system like Houdini as well, but it's based. And you know what? I bet Houdini could do this too. So I'll dig into this and see if there's a WrapX version of Houdini, because you know it's very similar. But basically, in this particular program, what you do is you load, and you can actually batch different heads too. So you can take your one UV'd, perfectly UV'd head, and then a bunch of different scan data or high-res sculpts, and then you can just batch through them, and it'll go through and transfer all your texture maps to your base mesh UVs and all that good stuff too. But basically all you need to do is, you can see these little yellow dots here, and you have a hand mesh, and then this hand is kind of curved around the ball. All you need to do is go on one side, you click on a reference point, so you click on this little pinky area, and then over here you click on this area, then you click here and you click here, and you basically just go and set a bunch of reference points. Like on the head, you would click around the ear and the corners of the eyes, on the nose, on the corners of the lips, just getting these reference points. And then on your scan data, you could do the same reference point, and it just kind of jiggles your mesh into place, and then make sure that your vertices are sitting right on top of your mesh, and it just wraps your good geo and your good UVs around whatever scan data or high-res sculpts you have. So you don't have to sit there and meticulously rebuild every time you want to do a high res to a low res. You just use the same mesh, because if you've got a good mesh and good UVs, the human face doesn't change that drastically. Assuming your mesh is good and you have enough resolution in that mesh to make small modifications without going crazy on the stretching. For a base mesh, if you have like a little tiny nose in your base mesh, and then you get a Scandator or a Sculpt where you have a guy with a big bulbous nose, okay, yeah, that's not going to work. You're going to need more geometry and more UV space in those areas. But generally speaking, like say you take a male human base mesh or a female human base mesh, and I've had good results with both just using one base mesh, it's usually fine. Fine enough for me. Your mileage may vary. You might be a little more stingy or particular about your quality. How do you split your model for texturing? Oh, the UV sets. That's more of a size-based thing, or what's in the camera. So you look at your object here. We go to Windows. Oh, I keep doing that. Hypershade. There it is. And then we go through here and we look at these texture sets. So we've got the ammo box back here. So I put this all in one texture set. So it's two things. It's number one, where is it seen? And it's not necessarily like making everything even. If I'm always going to be in first person view and I only see this ammo from third person view, what I would do is I'd put this ammo again on its own material. And this also depends on how many draw calls you're allowed to have on a particular character. He has 11 right now, which is quite a bit. But that's when the material combining comes into play. So that's why I might hop off a little bit early and start doing some of that. But basically, if you're never going to see this, but you can go ahead and make it in its own material set, and then you can just assign a texture to this. And it's, let's say most of this here is going to be 2048, so you can make this a 1024, or in some extreme cases even maybe a 512, because it's not going to be that big. So you can have if you have more draw calls, that gives you more control over how big you can set your textures, but then again you also have more draw calls, so you'll take a hit in performance in some way or another. And in that case, you could atlas maybe 4 1024s into one 2048 and have one draw call for that. That's another way to do that. But basically, on this particular guy, I just broke this guy up into a bunch of different stuff, because again, this is more for demo purposes in Painter than it was for like an asset I wanted to have run around Unreal. And not that it wouldn't have that big of a problem running around in Unreal. He is a heavy asset though. I think that try count's a little off. I don't think he's that high. No, I don't think he's that high. But this is also based on materials. So if you don't have a whole lot of limitations, which I really didn't with this guy, I didn't self-impose any, I could be a little bit looser with how I combine these things, but you can also use programs to recombine these materials for you. Is there something weird going on? Yeah, it looks like, oh, you know what? Did something get borked? Because when I popped these pieces off, everything was looking fine, and now they're not. So it looks like, yeah, something got twisted there. I knew it would. I knew it would. So anyway, yeah, so in this case here, in the GDC female we were talking about, what you could do, and she might actually be a better example. Let's just, let me just drag that in from here. Keep closing windows. Sorry, I should just leave this. Oh, no, there we go. Desktop. There we go. Okay. So we got her here, and for her, also material type. So if you're going to have subsurface scattering for one material, but you don't want subsurface scattering for all the materials because it's more computationally expensive, let's say, you could break that off as its own separate piece. So that's another reason why you might want to have a different material for the arms. And then on here, I don't know why I put the flashbangs on one. Normally what I would do, if I'm really strapped for resources, you just bake it all into one texture set. It's just one draw call. If you're not, what you can do is you can basically do like maybe what lower body in one, upper body in another, and then maybe your helmet in another. If you're going to have like cameras get a little closer to the face for maybe cutscene cinematics or something, give a little bit more love to the face. That might be overkill. So again, it might just be more of an upper body. Put that all in one 2048, and then the lower body you can put on a 2040 or a 1024 and call it a day if you're really strapped for resources. So So it kind of, again, it depends on where the camera is going to be, what kind of material it is, and the size of it. Or again, like sometimes you can even get away with, if you're only going to see things from the first person view, then you're obviously going to give your arms a 2048, and then if you look down at your body, you don't need a ton of texture resolution down here. So again, you could give a lower body with a different material. So camera distance, that kind of thing. Hope that makes sense. Did you get to use Blender yet? You said you want to explore it sometime. I do. I want to explore a lot of things. I'm kind of caught up in Houdini right now. Maybe some point in my life I'll quit my job and just explore software. That's what I really want to do. You ever share shells anymore? That's a good question. Yeah, for sometimes when I get stuff in the game quickly, just for rapid iteration purposes, what I'll do is if it's a symmetrical mesh, I'll just slice it right down the middle, UV half, duplicate it over, put those UVs to the side, bake it out, and then just completely share two sides of the object. I'm usually a little bit more careful because when you go to texture that thing and say it's in the middle of the, or next to the camera, like for a weapon, you're going to have a seam line right down the top, which you can kind of mitigate with triplanar projection, but at the same time, it might be obvious that everything is textured right down the top. So what you can do is you can, and again, if you're only going to see it from one side, you could give a lot of UV space to this one side and then almost no UV space to this side. But if you're sharing like a first-person weapon with a third-person weapon, well, then it needs to be a little bit more even. You know, so if you got the resources for a first-person weapon that's a different object than the third-person weapon, and also different textures, you can get away with that too. But that's like, you know, we're getting into like super optimization-y type things, but basically, yes. For example, yeah, on this example here, this flashbang, you know, I don't have 3 separate UVs for that. They're all just sharing one UV, obviously, and that's an easy one. The shoulders, actually, on this one, this is a good example. So these things are being shared. So if you take this into Painter, and we did this I want to say last time. Let's see. I brought this in and I went through the process recently in my playlists. I don't really break out the live stream stuff anymore unless it's something in particular we're doing, but I think at the end of this one. Yeah, so at the end of this one, I go through and walk you through the process of getting her in and talking about texture sets and texturing and stuff. So you're going to see when you start painting on this shoulder pad, it's also going to start painting on this shoulder pad because those are shared shells. Those are shared UVs, and it's just mirrored and stuff. So I think she does share an awful lot, which is good for texture resolution. It can kind of hamper you on your painting, but you know. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. I probably got about 15 more minutes here. Let's see what else we got. And if I miss anything, just keep shouting it down. There's a lot of comments streaming in here. Geomagic Wrap is mostly used for scan processing to make CAD models. Okay. Oh, I have no idea what Geomagic Wrap is, but yeah, that's the Wrap 3 stuff is what I was talking about. When am my next Pixel Art stream be? I'm going to be streaming next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that, but not the Tuesday after that. I know it's been a while since I've been on the Pixelogic stream. Yes. Well, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I guess, let me see if there's a better example of that. Her geometry here. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. Okay, so let's see. File, new, don't save. All right, I think I'm all caught back up. Let's see, D. Let me go through my streaming topics again here, make sure I didn't miss something. I don't know why I keep closing windows today. Okay, so we went over that. Export texture from ZBrush high subdivision lower mesh. In 3D Studio Max, the diffuse turns black. What could that be? I have no idea. I haven't used 3D Studio Max since 2001. So I'm not sure on that one. X-Wing Bake we did, which I think is that thing. Building, sculpting, scaling, life-size armor applicable for 3D printing. That one should be, if you have your source scaled correctly, and I guess I would use like Maya, Houdini, or like even a CAD program where I know the dimensions are exact. Like Fusion 360, for example. Let's see if do I have that installed? Yeah. Use Fusion 360 for something like that, just to set up scale reference, because I know ZBrush can be a little bit weird with its scale. Not really weird, but basically, let's see, preferences, initialize ZBrush, yes. When you export things with OBJ, there's a units scale, but there's not really a scale, if that makes sense. It doesn't tell you like if it's inches or millimeters or stuff. If you do go to your Z plugin here, there is a scale master you can mess around with, but I really don't mess around with this stuff. I try and keep my objects, and if I want to be really scientifically accurate, I'm going to trust probably a CAD program. Oh geez, how do I use this program again? Middle mouse, there we go. I forget how to use these programs so fast. I would use something like this, so we can go like, oh, let's create a new sketch on this floor plane here, and then we're gonna, with our sketches, we'll make a little rectangle here, and here's where you can type in like, oh, okay, I want this to be exactly however many millimeters on here, and then when you go in here, we can make like a circle sketch here, and another one here, and then you could just type in 15 millimeters, and then go ahead and put that on there, and it's perfect. Then we can stop the sketch, and then here we can go like, let's pull this thing up. And you want this to go up 50 millimeters? No, I want it to go up 25 millimeters. Boom. And then you can go through here, and you can, let's see if okay, we just go in here, and we can do a, that would be down here. Let's see, both these, modify. We can do a fillet. We'll fillet this one, like so. And then we can chamfer this other one here. And it's like 10 millimeter chamfer. No, I want to do a 4 millimeter chamfer. Okay, that's really precise. And you know what? Let's also do, I could have done this in the sketch as well, but we can also do multiple here, and we can say a 5 millimeter fillet on here. Beautiful. And then we could maybe even, let's see if we can do this. It's been a while since I've been in here too. I need to get back into practice here. 5 millimeter here. Okay, so this is a very, very precise object here with down to the millimeter here. So if I take this thing here and we go into our bodies here, and let's say we want to save as STL. Refinement, we can put on high refinement, but you can also do, you can drop this down to like say 3 on your normal deviation. That'll make it very, very refined. We'll go to desktop here, test STL, and then we can go into ZBrush, and then we can go into Z plugin, 3D print hub, import STL file from your desktop. There we go. And now we have a very precisely scaled and, you know, whatever. And then if you go in here to export, you're going to see the scale is set to 66.6289. And if you go to geometry, you're going to see that size is set to, XYZ size is set to 2. So ZBrush, when it brings stuff in, it likes to set the XYZ size to 2 so that it works with all the ZBrush stuff that goes on, all the tools you use in ZBrush, and then on export, it multiplies that by your scale size. So that will, it should, when I export this, match what we had in Fusion 360. So that's what I would do. If I needed to be super precise, I'd probably do that. And again, if I miss something, just keep shouting it out. Thanks for showing up, everybody. female character you had in mind, could you show just a little bit of the process you go through to create the low poly from ZBrush? Let me see if I have that file here. CGMA. It's been again, maybe I have some stuff on here I don't want you guys to see yet. Oh, you know what we do? Let me see. Intro, sample files, GDC female. There we go. And this one's actually split up into the different groups here. So if I go to solo mode here, you're going to see I have, here's the lower body, handgun, flashbang, arms, forearms, helmet, upper body. This isn't really how I work. I work with just a ton of subtools over here. But if you wanted to go ahead and UV these all as one single mesh, what you could do is combine them, and you don't even have to do that. When you're remeshing stuff, it's whatever's visible over here. So again, if you wanted to, say, put the arms, I'm going to hold down Shift and touch the arms, and that'll turn everything off. And then we'll go in here to, we'll turn on the forearms, and we'll also turn on the upper body. So if I wanted to re-topologize this thing all together, I could just have them visible. And then at this point, I'm going to hold down Shift and turn out the colorize, and I'm going to go to Matte Cap Pearl, drop it down to medium gray, and then we can go to maybe append a Z-sphere, hit X across to go across, well, not the arms. Go to the Z-sphere, hit X, we can hit E and scale that in. We can go to transparency mode, hit W, and you can put this in here, and then turn transparency back off. And now it's just a simple matter of turning your Dynamesh resolution down, density down, going to edit topology, and then just start retopologizing. Now when you have a Z-sphere selected, all that stuff's down here. So you go down here to, you know, edit topology, and then under adaptive skin, you're going to turn your Dynamesh resolution down to 0, because by default, when you're retopologizing something, it's going to want to turn it into a Dynamesh, which is that new one in 4R8. Density, it's going to smooth it once, which you probably don't want if you want your one-to-one of what you're creating. And then you just go through here and you start retopologizing this thing. It's a pretty simple process. You just go through here and you make sure you're in edit topology, make sure you're in draw mode, and then just go through here and just start clicking around. Now, there's probably, I mean, depending on, there's a ton. Every 3D package nowadays has retopology tools. I know Maya does. Maya, Max, Moto, all the Houdini, all the usual suspects have a retopology solution. Of course, ZBrush does too. And what I like about ZBrush is I'm retopologizing multi-millions of polygons, which you can do in other programs as well. But then you got to export this, import it into there, or decimate it in here and export it into another program, because, you know, I just can't. Those programs are really not set up to handle 30 million polygons on the screen. Again, they can, but it might be a little bit squirrely. So that's why I tend to do a quick block out of my topology in ZBrush first, and then I'll clean it up in another program later maybe, or I just retopologize in ZBrush, call it a day. In this particular instance, you're going to see, let's go ahead and go out of edit topology. I can alt tap this one here, and we'll go ahead and creep that back up. So this type of stuff here, I would UV these separately here, these little straps here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a split hidden. And then, in fact, since these are already, looks like, well, were these Dynamesh? No. Okay, so what I can do on this one is I can hit reconstruct, and then I'll go ahead and reconstruct these down. And then once it gets down to the lowest point on this one, looks like this one is modeled separately. Let me see if I can just pop this one out, split hidden. And now with these ones, I can just keep hitting reconstruct. No. Okay, so this is as low as these things go. So I can start here, and then I can go through and delete the stuff, as opposed to, you know, delete every other edge or something in ZModeler, as opposed to modeling that stuff. And on this one's actually a better example of how I should have I think I remeshed those ones back a while ago. So on this one here, all I would need to do, insert single edge loop, we can hold down Alt. And let's go ahead and delete higher here. So for my low res for these, I can just quickly go through here and be like, okay, there's my low res. And if it's too much resolution, just go through here. And I mean, on this stuff, you're going to want to make sure you at least have the silhouette so you get bakes. But so if you were a clean modeler, you could do that. If not, you can rebuild it manually. You can rebuild it using Z-spheres. In fact, you could combine all of these things, do a merge Let's do a merge visible, but without this, because I wouldn't merge these, because these are all going to be retopologized separately for a little bit cleaner result. But if you wanted to, you could just merge this stuff. Merge visible here. And then again, if we're just looking for an envelope to recreate, all we need to do is just dynamesh this stuff together. And I'm not sure what resolution we're working at, but the lower you dynamesh, the more it'll close small gaps. There we go. And this is probably fine for a game res, although we do have a big gap in here, so it's doing a bunch of interior spaces. So you're going to see, if we go look through the middle here, you're going to see a bunch of stuff being built out. So this, in this case, if you do want to use the Z-Remesh option, go through here and close all this stuff up. I'm just going to do a really sloppy job. You'd probably want to like insert a cube or something in here, but we'll call that a day. Good enough, just for demo purposes. There we go. So no more interior spaces. So now what I can do with this one is I can just Z-Remesh this, so we can duplicate this off, and we can go over here to geometry. And it's not symmetrical. I mean, some of it is, some of it isn't. So in this case, I wouldn't be able to. I mean, if I was smart, I would have taken this middle piece here and Z-Remesh this and then the arm separately. But since I didn't, we'll just do an asymmetrical mesh here. And we can say Z-Remesh, target polygon count of 5 is fine. Adaptive size, we'll just crank that down to maybe 25. And we'll hit Z-Remesh. Mesh covered in spikes that are all different shape. How would you retopologize something like that? I try to give an extreme example because my mesh is hard surface full of tiny parts. Just manually retopologize it. If it's a bunch of weird stuff, you can try decimating it. Hard surface, you can sometimes just decimate and clean up. And I'll show you that in a second, but here's the remesh here. And then if we go, and you can also have both of these showing here. So if we do both of these showing, and then we can go to project all and just project that back, and then we can take this upper body here and append that Z-sphere result here. Now if you wanted to bake these, since you can't bake to an arbitrary mesh in ZBrush, what you'd have to do is first you don't have to UV it first. You can actually go down so there's level 1. So if you want to, you can hit Control D and then project all, and then Control D and project all. And actually what you probably want to do if you want to get your material IDs is, that's a good point, let's undo those. And let's hold down Shift and turn on colorize for all these, and then we'll go ahead and do another project all, and then Control D, project all. Polyframe. It should be projecting the polypaint. Why is it not projecting the polypaint? Maybe I need colorize turned off for this. Yes, okay, so have colorize turned off for this, your low res, and then it'll ask you if you want to project the polypaint. Which it still didn't do. But it should project a polypaint, and then you're just going to project the detail, and then you would UV it using UV master, which would be here, and then you would, since you have subdivision history here, you're going to have to drop down to the lowest, say work on clone, UV it, and then go down there, and you can use the bake master, wherever that is, the export, multi-map exporter, and you can bake all your stuff in ZBrush if you want to. So, is it better to learn Maya over 3D Studio Max? I learn them both. You only live once. Scale master translate real world measurement. Yes. So that was a scale master we talked about earlier, was this right here. I tend not to use it just because it makes me sweaty. I prefer to know how I'm working first than to work. If it needs to be a very, very, very specific size, like 3D printing something for your face or your eyeballs, I would work here first and not be so loose in ZBrush, but then I would feel more comfortable going back into ZBrush. Cool, thanks Kenny for the kind words. Is it possible to go through how to create a clay render presentation in Keyshot? Clay render. I see a lot of clay renders. I don't know. Is that a thing? Let's see. So if we take this one here. I mean, I know you can take this clay stuff. You can make take any one of these clays, and also the ZBrush has clay stuff in. Let me take something simpler in here. It will take, you know what, we'll shoot this over to Keyshot. That'll be neat. What am I looking for here? Render. How are we doing on time? All right, I need to leave pretty soon. External render Keyshot. Shoot that on over. And all of this stuff too, there's a, on my YouTube channel and on my Gumroad, you can download this stuff. The intro, not an intro, it's just a Keyshot ZBrush Bridge walkthrough. Yeah, sure. Okay, so we got this here. Is there like a, okay, there is there a clay render in here? There probably is, I'm just not aware of it. I don't really do clay renders. I'm sure there's a reason to do clay renders, I just don't know what they are. Or I would just make a, there's ZBrush clay in here. But yeah, that is something I have seen quite a bit. You can also go here to Cloud Library and red clay brick. You can download these things. Gray clay. And then you can download those if you want to. No material it is, I can do parts. I'm pretty slow in modeling hard surface. Any tips suggest to get a boost with hard surface? I tend to not get too caught up, and yeah, so okay, if you go to my YouTube channel here, we go to, let me see if I can get some good examples. So some really old stuff in here. These things are dated, so I get a lot of comments on these hard edge. Go to playlist here. Yeah, the ZBrush Mech Helmet techniques. These are actually pretty dated. People will watch these and go, "Wow, what a horrible process!" And it's like, well, okay, this was 5 years old. So there's other stuff in here. Intro to ZBrush 4 Part 8. But basically what I do, here's some concept sketching example. Oh, if you want to see me making the GDC female we've been using this whole time, here's where she started. This is just me making her. And it's just staying loose, and and really most of the time isn't spent thinking about hard surface and building hard surface. To me, that's a waste of time, because it is, I'm not good at I'm not a box modeling wizard, so I like to get my ideas out first and make sure it's what I want before I go and invest the time of doing perfectly subdivided box modeled meshes. Again, some people don't work like that. I tend to, so I'll get my idea out first, and I'll go through and I'll break these things up like so. And these are just basic splitting techniques, which I do go over in some of my videos here. And then the mech bust, concept mech bust here. Yeah, there's just a bunch of stuff in here. But yeah, here's the GDC female. How about that? And if you want to see the making of that mech helmet, I do have that one. And this one's really old. This one is very, very many years old. Just start with the basic female here that I have, my base mesh female. And then, I mean, look how ugly this thing is. That right there is the mech helmet. And then if we keep moving forward, you know, just getting this thing blocked out. And again, I'm not sweating hard surface because I don't know what I'm making yet. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time hard surface modeling stuff if I don't know what the next thing's going to be. And then I just go through the refine phase and make sure the functionality is working and it's still what I want to make, and then just slowly start building up. It doesn't have to be slow. I think the commander guy, so if you go to my art station here, so this guy right here took me about 35-40 hours to make. And again, you can start with a mail-based mesh. It'll save you some time, and some Kit Bash library parts over here from stuff I had done for the ZBrush 4R7 beta that I made. You can see some of that in here. But basically, yeah, so you start with this, nothing. And then you just refine it and start getting your ideas out. And then once you get to a certain point, there's this gun arm. See how gross that thing is? But it was the basic idea of what I was trying to get across. And then going back through, oh, and if you want to, go from the low-res sketch to the high-res stuff, go to QBrush, YouTube, Gumroad, and go to the boot tutorial. This will walk you through how I made those boots, and it's kind of a little microcosm. Even though it's not hard surface, there's a lot of hard surface techniques in here. You would just basically not sculpt in wrinkles if you wanted to keep it hard surface. So we go through just the sketch and then breaking this thing down and refining it. And if you go again, since we're talking about ArtStation here, here's the boot tutorial, and right here in this image right here is a walkthrough. Just a really long image of here's what I did, here's how I refined it, here's all the little steps I did to rebuild some of this stuff with topology brush and Z-sphere topology and Z-remesher and stamping and sculpting wrinkles and all that stuff. So hopefully that'll help you. Let's see here. Okay. Maz says, hi Zbrushers, hi everybody. Mark says, switch RGB on. I don't know what that means. Was I doing something in here? I know we were talking about clay renders. But I really don't know much about that. Wish I did. Sorry about that. Video on auto UVing in Maya versus ZBrush versus Houdini. Is Houdini really that good? Houdini really is that good. Check out the new 16.5 results. And that's what I'm going to be doing this week. So now, has Houdini always been that good? No. But they've just did a major improvement on their game tools. So that's why I bring up Houdini. Adobe Dimension CC, it looks like Keyshot. Cool. No, I haven't checked that out yet. Alrighty. Well, that's the thing too, is sometimes these things go quickly, and I'll just show you one example before I head out. For example, under here, under brush, probably under LM. Jeez, I can never find this damn thing. This dozer thing. So when I made this ZBrush dozer thing, let's go to miscellaneous here. I basically stole some pieces. So I modeled this thing for the ZBrush, yeah, and even the gun. So you're going to see, I just reused a lot of these pieces and even this brush that I made for what he was using. So that saved me a little bit of time as well. And also some of these ZBrush, these dozer parts here. Anything you could do to save some time. I never used Houdini. Want to explain what its purpose is? It's just, you know what Substance Designer is for texturing? Basically, Houdini is that for everything in CG. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna head out. Thanks, everybody. Hope that answered some questions, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side. And also, next Tuesday, I'll be on Pixelectric's channel, and I'll be back on that regularly scheduled time at least 2 weeks in a row now. So thanks for showing up, everybody, and I'm gonna figure out where my OBS window is so I can, there he goes, and catch y'all.